I thought you were going to get a haircut when you were off on vacation.
Well, I did. Hold on. Here, right here.
That was the hair you got cut?
That's it. I got it. I swore I was going to get a haircut, and I did. Oh, are we on? Oh, why have you got the left hand or the right hand side of my face? Okay. Oh, look at the camera. Okay. Hi. Welcome to Progressive Soup. My name is David Hirsute Stevenson. Which I think means Harry, I believe. Tonight, we're here with Marty Heiser, good friend Marty Heiser, who's been on the show. We've done 8 or 10 or 12 half-hour shows.
We have.
And good friends, and we have some different opinions on some things. We're both describe ourselves as being devout Christians, and I think that's fair to say.
Yes.
Marty lives his life truthfully in a very Christian fashion. He does a lot of good things that I don't need to dwell on because he'll get shy about what he does, but he does a lot of good things. I try to do some good things based on my Christian beliefs. But tonight we're going to talk about Charleston. So it's going to be 2 white guys talking about a white guy murdering 9 black people. But before we get to that, Marty and I did a show about a month ago where Basil sent me along, and that's Basil Budacat. Sheep reached out to Basil Budacat Presents! ! Basil sent me as an emissary to Marty's show to bring Marty a scoop about presidential candidate Hillary Rodham Clinton that Basil thought would be a great unmasking of a woman that, in my opinion, Republicans pretty much vilify whenever they get the opportunity. So Basil came up with this Benghazi scandal, yes, and then rearranged the letters in Benghazi scandal, yes, and took some of those letters out and created the term Nazi bag lady. Marty was offended by that because Marty is offended by that type of thing being said about anybody. But Basil's point was, and he made it pretty clear in his own inimitable way, that there are a lot of things that the Republicans say about Hillary Clinton which are pretty equally offensive. And he sent me along with another one. And if you could see the camera, it says, and Marty will vouch for this, it says, Hillary Clinton, see U.S. video, United States video, and the word knife. Now here's the thing. Basil said that if you do this, and Marty, talk while I do this. It'll take about 30 seconds.
Okay, well, for the vast viewing audience out there, it may cause you a little pause that David A. Stevenson listens to a cat and actually hears the cat talk. It might cause you a little further pause to realize that somehow the cat and him play Scrabble together. Now, from a psychological point of view, I don't know if this comes from a lonely childhood where he was left alone for long periods of time with a cat and in need of childhood friendship. He somehow animated the cat with the English language and the ability to communicate beyond what our normal cats do, with basically let you know when they want cream out of the refrigerator, or when they want to come out, or when they want to just be left alone. David has taken it to the next level where the cat is communicating with him, the cat is playing Scrabble with him, and the cat actually has some cogent political thoughts that he's wanting to express to David A. Stevenson. Now, I know what you're thinking. For those of you that know some of the mass murderers in and around New York City, some of them got their cues from a dog.
Oh, now, yeah, Berkowitz.
Yeah, Berkowitz.
Son of Sam, who talked to whose dog gave him the clue.
I'm not saying connect the dots, but it does give me a little bit of concern. But I'm sorry. Okay. What did your cat come up with?
Okay, now out of the gobbledygook that I just put up there before, you get this little bit. Killed Vince Foster. Okay? And the letters left over make alien son, which I guess implies that Clinton has a son by somebody with an alien. And some guy named Huey, H-U, not E-Y, but H-U-I-Y. But the crux of this, of course, is killed Vince Foster. And Republicans have been splaying this about ever since Hillary's husband, that other dude, that crazy guy, was president. And Marty likes Bill Clinton probably a lot more than I do. for reasons that we could go into briefly. But there's been things on the internet and about. I'm just going to really briefly read off the list of people that Bill and Hillary Clinton have allegedly conspired to murder. Let's see. Of course, Vince Foster. Let's see. Mary Mahoney, James McDougal, Paul Tully, Victor Razor, Montgomery Razor, Ed Willie, Herschel Friday, and I'm not making this list up, these are real names. Herschel Friday, Luther Parks, which of course probably is related to Lex Luthor in the Superman comic books, John Wilson, Kathy Ferguson, Bill Shelton, Jeff Rhodes, James Milam, Jordan Kettleson, Dr. Stanley Hurd, Stephen Dixon, Gandhi Bach, in the case, and again, I'm not making these names up, Dr. Donald Rogers, Stanley Huggins, Florence Martin, Suzanne Coleman, Paula Gober, Paul Wiltshire, John Purnell Walker, Ron Brown, Mario. Well, we can talk about Ron Brown pretty briefly because he was a fairly well-known person. Barbara Wise, Charles Moussier, Kevin Ives, Don Henry, Keith Coney, Keith McCaskill, who has 3 Ks in his name, which I guess implicates the Clintons with the KKK, Gregory Collins, John Hillier, Conway LeBleu, Todd M. Keehan, Steve Willis, Robert Williams, Gary Johnson, Dennis Patrick, L.J. Davis, Larry Nichols. And then we get into the military ones. Major General William Robertson, Colonel Robert Kelly, Sergeant Brian Haney, Major William Barclay, Captain Scott Reynolds, Colonel William Densberger, Spec, I guess that's Special Forces, Spec Gary Rhodes, Sergeant Tim Sable, Todd McKeehan, and that's it. These are all people that if you look on the internet and Google that who Bill and Hillary Clinton murdered in conjunction with things like Whitewater, and maybe Whitewater's got something to do with this KKK guy, Keith McCaskill. But all these are all people that Republicans float theories about the Clintons having killed, having murdered. So when I say that me presenting something totally tongue-in-cheek, totally facetious, presented by Basil Budakat about Nazi bag lady, that I think compared to these theories about people whom the Clintons have allegedly murdered, you can't beat this stuff. This stuff is much more powerful, I think, than some snarky reference to her as Nazi bag lady based on letters in Benghazi scandal. Yes, sir.
Okay, I don't know any of those names that you talked about except for Vince Foster and Ron Brown.
Okay,
those two I know.
Those are the two most prominent ones, yeah.
I think it's completely illogical to say that the Republicans are claiming that the Clintons killed all these people, regardless of what you found on the internet. I also found that Mayor Mark Bowden is an alien from outer space. It was on the internet.
Did
so it
you
must be
really?
True.
No,
did.
you
yes,
didn't.
Yes, no, it's true, and he gets his from the planet Orc. And he came down.
That's Mork.
To start a discussion based on what you found on the internet is a little silly.
I saw one today on a little site known as Reagan News, and if you Google Reagan News and look at today's stories, it'll talk about some of the stuff that the Clintons are purported to have been involved in, killing people that apparently posed a threat to their illustrious careers along the way.
As far as conspiracies and illegalities that the Clintons have been involved in, you need look no further than the most recent book called Clinton Cash. And for those of you, it's interesting now in media because you can go right to the internet and look it up. Look up the book Clinton Cash. It was put out by not a Republican, but someone who writes for the New York Times and has done a lot of exposés of Republicans, actually.
They have no Republicans writing for the New York Times?
I don't know if they do or not, but this guy is clearly has dealt with Democratic issues in the past, and he goes into specifically the Clinton Foundation and the money that they've taken from. They've taken from, among others, Colombia, Iran, Russia. They did a deal with Russia where the uranium that's actually comes out of the ground in Wyoming goes to a shell corporation and then is funneled through Russia to Iran. And this is all money that they have taken, the Clinton Foundation. I mean, we're talking millions and millions of dollars. India, Canada, that's a fun one. TD Bank was a big supporter of the Keystone Pipeline. They paid Bill Clinton like $500,000 out of the blue right when Keystone Pipeline was coming up to come give one of his great speeches, and stopped giving it once Keystone Pipeline wasn't approved. Nigeria, Ethiopia, United Arab Emirates, Kyrgyzstan, Haiti. That's a nice one. You remember Bill Clinton had all that progressive work down in Haiti. Turns out that very well-connected contractors were the ones that got contract. Uzbekistan, Ireland, and Ethiopia. These are all donors to the Clinton Foundation that quid pro quo got results from Hillary Clinton as the Secretary of State. So I don't know about this list of people that were supposedly killed by the Clintons. Let's just go to the emails that were destroyed by Hillary Clinton, and this is like 3-4 months ago. The entire server was turned into dust. What was she afraid of? What would those emails uncover about her double dipping, about her quid pro quo through the Clinton Foundation? This lady is dirty. She's dirty from start to finish, and from a Democratic point of view, she's your girl. She's your candidate. This is who you have representing your party. Right. And I would say going forward, there's a reason that socialist senator from Vermont is attracting so many big crowds, because I don't think that the Democrats are terribly happy. And the proof is in the pudding, because the Clinton Foundation went and redid their tax returns in light of the information that was uncovered here. The donations from the Canadian uranium dealer that were not reflected in their tax returns. They went and they redid their tax returns, refiled it to cover that up. They went and they destroyed all the emails. That's what you have with Hillary and Bill Clinton, and that's what's going for it. As far as Vince Foster, it was a tragic, what turned out to be a suicide in a federal park near the White House, and Ron Brown died in a plane crash. It was a very foggy, gray night. It was a very treacherous landing strip in Eastern Europe at
Kosovo,
the time.
Yep.
But as far as the other guys, I have no idea, and I think it's ridiculous to say the Republicans are blaming them for all this, regardless of what you saw in the internet.
I'm going to ask you to, if you wouldn't mind, you mentioned that they had taken money from this list of people, and I'm asking you to put in, I think, a more reasonable accepted in place of it, because it's a different flavor.
Okay.
Now,
I will say accepted, much like an FBI investigation in the mafia would say that the payoff was accepted by the Gambino crime family for such and such a nefarious activity.
Okay, now,
so yes, the Clinton Foundation, the Hillary, Bill, and Chelsea Clinton Foundation accepted millions of dollars from these countries that had never previously donated money to some sort of international donation to some international do-good corporation or nonprofit like the Clinton Foundation, and haven't since.
Did they give
there
money?
are people that gave $1 million that only have a net worth of $600,000. That's in India.
You ever say you're welcome a tiny bit?
Don't believe me. Read the book, Clinton Cash. Just go to the highlights.
Okay, I just want to ask real quickly. Did they accepted any money from a guy by the name of Sheldon Adelson, the billionaire that's taking charge of the Republican presidential candidates and making them come and bow and scrape before him, so he can decide which candidate he's going to give literally $1 billion to in this election cycle? Well, I'm not talking about millions. I'm talking about billions.
I'm pretty sure you're talking about George Soros, aren't you? Isn't that the Democrat billionaire? Or that's a different.
That's
different.
He's nothing compared to Sheldon Adelson.
Really?
The Las Vegas tycoon.
Oh, I remember. Okay, I remember Sheldon Adelson. But then there's also the environmentalist that spent all that money on all those Democratic senators that he tried to save, and every single one of them went down in defeat. As we speak right now, there are more Republicans in the U.S. Congress and the U.S. Senate than there have been since World War II.
That's the Koch brothers, actually, that gave a ton of money exclusively to Republicans. And got very little. Actually, it was Karl Rove. You know who Karl Rove is?
I'm familiar with him.
Okay, he his super PAC went about a 2% success rate on the candidates that they supported in the past election cycle. Pretty much, if Karl Rove spent a lot of money on your campaign, you're pretty much sure to lose.
It's interesting, though. It's interesting because you've hit on something. There may be some common ground here.
Yes.
All of a sudden, the guys that get the big money from the big rich guys, they lose. So chalk one up for the Republic. It's a good thing. Apparently, these elections cannot be bought.
High five.
Okay.
It's happened many a time. It's happened here in Connecticut with Tom Foley. It happened in California with Carly Fiorina.
Well,
Linda McMahon
she
in
went
Connecticut.
Shopping twice and came home with butkus.
Yeah, for about $100 million
Tom
bucks.
Foley, same thing.
Yeah.
So hey, chalk one up for the voters.
Thank you.
They can objectively look at these candidates.
Yep.
And if you don't have a cringe factor when you see Hillary Clinton speak and try and defend some of this thing, then I don't know. Maybe your cringe factor is a little numbed with time. But I certainly do, and I'm pretty impressed with the Republicans. You have African Americans, you have a woman, you have a homosexual that's running, you have Hispanics. It's quite the cornucopia patchwork of cultures and different races represented by the Republican candidates for president. Let the games begin. Let's see who emerges.
Now, I texted you while Kristen and I were away on vacation with a little notation about, you mentioned Bernie Sanders, who's probably, in my opinion, probably not the best alternative to Hillary Clinton. Probably the best alternative, the best alternative is not in the race, Elizabeth Warren. At least she's said up to this point, absolutely not.
But she is Arapaho Indian or Navajo Indian.
She's got some issues with Wall Street. Let's just put it that way. And Hillary Clinton apparently doesn't have enough issues with Wall Street. But there's also a fellow by the name of Jim Webb who was governor, I believe, and also senator from Virginia. He was head of the Navy Department. He's a veteran. He's a Vietnam veteran that I think personally is probably the best candidate.
Joe Biden is waiting in the wings, right?
Who knows? Joe Biden's had 8 years to do nothing, and he succeeded famously.
Well, you got Webb, you got Elizabeth Warren, you've got Bernie, the guy, the socialist from Vermont. There's a lot of other people that could come sweeping in. But as of right now, the Democratic Party has thrown all their weight and everything. All bets are on Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's probably
you're welcome to her, as far as I'm concerned.
That's the corporate side of the Democratic Party, and we know there's a corporate side to the Democratic Party. The same way there's a corporate side to the Republican Party. The in crowd, the insiders, the ones that, for lack of a better way of putting it, care more about winning the election than they care about whether their candidate represents average people. Mm-hmm. And these are the folks that are paying their way. The Sheldon Adelsons, who's the one you mentioned from the Democratic Party side?
Elizabeth Warren?
No, the George Soros.
Oh, George Soros.
Yeah. There's a lot of big money that's out there, which we might find some agreement that even though it doesn't seem to made a lot of headway in elections.
But I think that's a good thing.
As you mentioned, candidates have put a lot of money into their races, into their running for office, and as you say, have come up with bupkis, and that's a good thing.
I think it is. I think there's all this concern. Sure. There was all this concern about the Supreme Court ruling about, can corporations, are they people? Are they allowed? Do they have First Amendment rights? Are they allowed to give money? And when it was said that they were, the sky was falling because all this money was going to flood in, and then people were going to be able to make their own decisions. I mean, people.
Point well taken.
Again, the internet. There is an incredible amount of information on all these candidates, all these races. It's there if you want it.
Point
the fact that you buy all the TV camera, all the TV time.
Well, point well taken. But the part that bothers me about unfettered, unlimited corporate money in elections is that it gives the system, it gives the whole process a stink to it. And I think rather than affecting votes, I think it makes a lot of people who would otherwise be interested and excited by the political process throw up their hands and say, my vote doesn't matter, and they don't show up on Election Day. Well, the United States has a very bad record. Well, we've always had a bad record of voter participation in elections. That's unfortunate. Maybe not so unfortunate, because maybe some people that don't take the time to think about the issues and read and study and draw conclusions and question, maybe they're just as well that they don't vote anyway. Possibly.
Look, I give the voters all the credit in the world. I think that they're pretty informed. They can decide, and they can decide to vote with their feet. They can decide to vote by not voting. You know, that's a decision. That's a conscious decision. To hell with all of them. I'm staying home and playing with my kids or watching Game of Thrones or whatever I want to do.
Don't forget about America's Funniest Home Videos.
But the point is, I mean, I give more credit to the voters. I think there's all the information.
And don't forget about the Marty Heiser Show and Progressive Soup and Basil Buddha-Cat Presents.
Never before.
Basil?
Never before have there been more avenues for people to get their information. And you have this dynamic of echo chambers. You know, you have the Fox News echo chamber. You have MSNBC echo chamber. You have the liberal echo chamber. You have the Tonight Show with John... Help me out here. You know, there's that echo chamber.
I haven't watched that in about 8 years.
But I'm just saying, there's...
Stephen Colbert taking over for David Letterman.
Yeah, but so people can get their news from wherever they want to get their news, or not, or check out, and just decide, forget it. And you know, it is what it is, but it's a representative form of democracy, and those people that care enough to come out and vote, that feel as if they've had a belly full of this quasi-Marxist socialism, nanny state, we know best, you're all racist, and you need to be, brought into line. If you've had a belly full of that, and you want to be treated like an adult, and you want to have a leader, the Republican parties may have something to offer you.
My good friend Marty does not ever mince words. Never let it be said that he ever pulls any punches, and God bless him for that, because he speaks his mind, and I like that. We do agree on a lot of things, we could spend a while on that in another show. But the reason why we're here tonight, actually, and while we'll be here tomorrow morning at noon 30 with a second installment, is to talk about an event that took place in Charleston, South Carolina last week, and I would like to spend a little of our time talking about Fox News. We've got bye-bye or 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Thank you. We're going to spend the next 5 minutes talking about how that story was approached on Fox News. And I watch Fox News because I want to know what they're saying, and I'd like to be able to critique them. And it's hard to critique something unless you actually watch it. So I always encourage my folks that take the more right-wing attitude to spend a little time looking at MSNBC. I don't watch them. I know what they're going to say. I'm pretty sure I know what they're going to say. Fox, I know what they're going to say, but I want to know what it is so I can respond to it. Now, Fox News, right after the story broke, immediately went into the story, the narrative building that the attack had nothing to do with the fact that it was a black church. In fact, what it was the Fox narrative of the war on Christianity, because it was a Christian church. 4 minutes. And that kind of, it rankled me. And I think it missed the point, because he's a young man, he's an adult, 21 years old. He drove past, probably knowing how the South is with their number of churches. Well, there's a lot of churches in this area too. But he probably drove past 100 white Christian churches in Charleston on the way to that one black Christian church. We very quickly found out that he has an association with the Confederate flag, the stars and bars. He's got a great affinity for that. And we could talk, if you'd like, about whether the stars and bars represents slavery or whether it represents a more historical narrative. But he had the stars and bars. Done?
3 minutes.
Thank you.
Sorry.
He had the stars and bars. That's what I get for not wearing my glasses when we tape. The stars and bars. He had the South African, the racist former South African apartheid group, and the racist Rhodesian apartheid group on a jersey that he was wearing, and his writings clearly bore out the fact that he acted strictly on race. Not to disparage Fox, but I want to hear what my good friend Marty Heiser has to say about this during our last 2 minutes, and then we'll do the second show.
Well, actually, I mean, I watch quite a bit of Fox. I watch other news outlets as well. I mean, all day today, they ran pictures of him from his racist website.
Yeah.
I think it couldn't be more clear that this was a disturbed young man that was heavily steeped in white supremacist, racist, Confederate flag, Rhodesia, South Africa, the old Confederacy, and he had this vague idea, this illusion of grandeur that he was going to start a race war. And I don't think Fox has in any way shied away from the racist component.
Well, they did in the beginning.
Shooting.
They did the first day when it first came out, and very quickly went into this war on Christianity.
Well, just
gig.
really quick as we wrap up, because there's three groups that have been fairly maligned by the liberal press. First, police. All police are racist. Secondly, Fox News. And thirdly, Christians. I would say that...
He's right on one out of the three.
Hold on, because we don't have that much time. Let me just get my point out. The police performed brilliantly. They brought this guy to justice in a wonderful way. The person who identified this killer was actually said she saw the information about him on Fox and Friends. And she heroically tracked this guy down on an interstate highway and refused to get off the phone until the authorities were called. That's what happened.
Well, didn't a family member help turn him in?
Doesn't matter. Look it up.
Okay.
The lady that brought the police to bear was watching Fox and Friends, a very popular Fox program. And finally, Christians. The reaction of the Christian church, not throwing rocks and things like that, but talking about forgiveness. It's been absolutely breathtaking. Three groups, the police, Fox, and Christians, that have been somewhat maligned of late, are coming through looking great.
Well, agree with you on the police, because the police did a great job, but Fox and Friends did not do a great job the first day. This is Bring Progressive Soup, and the Christian church has not been maligned. There is no war on Christianity. We'll be back tomorrow, noon 30, and we're going to pick it up again. And we'll be dressed exactly the same as we are now, amazingly enough.
Funny that.
Progressive Soup, David Stevenson, my good friend Marty Heiser, and we'll see you tomorrow at noon 30 for the second installment of this show.